When looking at the impact of movement out west on Native Americans, we really see the year of 1890 and the event of Wounded Knee as a turning point in Anglo-white Indian relations. This event, really a war that occurred between the U.S. government and um, Indian tribes, ended sort of armed Indian resistance for almost another century, which means that Native Americans weren't necessarily going to fight back in a warlike fashion as they had, you know, before. So this is sort of a very big turning point and a sad turning point for tribes. That there's sort of this sense that, what is the point of fighting back? Let's just try to do what we can to preserve our lands and our cultural traditions. But at the same time, we're seeing greater efforts by the American government to assimilate and Americanize tribes, starting with the Dawes Act, which was taking Indian land and sort of dividing it up and saying, here's a plot of land. If you want it, your nuclear family can have this plot of land and you can use it to farm, right? You need to produce something off the land is essentially what the government was saying. And anyone that doesn't claim this plot of land that we are offering you will not get land, basically. And any of the unclaimed land would be taken by the government. So either you accept our allotment of land and you use it to do what we say you should do, which is, cattle ranching or, agricultural production on this land, or you get nothing. So the Dawes Act was the first attempt to try to assimilate Indian ways and their conceptual views of land and tie, that it should be an economic entity. Land is tied to production in the government sense of it. We also see this breaking up the tribal way of life, right? Tribes sort of saw themselves as one family, as one kin, and the Dawes Act was attempting to, create more of the traditional nuclear kind of Western Anglo conceptions of family, putting that on them with the Dawes Act as well. We see greater missionary activity on the tribes as well, especially from white women missionary reformers who were going in and to, families' homes and really working with Indian women to, again, sort of accept the more nuclear family patriarchal structure, trying to civilize them, so to speak. We see this with the boarding schools also that were really targeting the next generation of Native American people. That these schools that were often run by, churches or private organizations worked to, give the Native American people a greater sense of American identity and teaching them the English language, how to read and write, giving them American history, giving them, civics and government education to try to mold them into being, quote unquote, good American citizens. And this is sort of one area where we can see, is this a good or bad thing, right? A lot of historians sort of look at the intentions of the schools, of the missions, as they're trying to help them. They're trying to do what they can to sort of keep these people from just becoming completely impoverished with no land, with no education, right? It's sort of like you either join them or die. And so the intention seems to be somewhat of a good one. Most historians would agree upon, but the outcome, the effect that it has is devastating to the culture, to the practice, to the tribal system. So one of the things that we can see, though, that comes from the boarding schools is that for Native American girls especially, they're able to get good jobs that otherwise they may not have in Indian service and the federal government. So in this way, it's sort of a new path, a new door that is open for Native American women, whether they chose it or not. So here you have sort of an example of a photograph of some Indian girls before they would be Americanized and what they would look like after, right? Much more of the fashion of the day.